Imagine a fateful desert night where everything seems quiet until a confrontation erupts that challenges the very core of justice. Picture this. In a barren parking lot under a flickering neon sign, renowned actor and quiet warrior Keanu Reeves stands alone against a tide of corruption. What happened next will shock you and stir emotions deep within your soul. Where are you watching from tonight? Don't forget to subscribe to Timeless Stories for more unforgettable tales. The desert stretched before him like an endless canvas of indigo, punctuated by countless stars that barely cut through the darkness. The night still clung to the remnants of a scorching day. The cracked asphalt, the earthy aroma of sage, and dust swirling in the wind. Outside the modest moonlight diner, an old neon sign buzzed intermittently, its pale glow casting long shadows across the nearly empty parking lot. Inside, the diner exuded a nostalgic charm. The aroma of strong coffee mingled with the comforting scent of fried food. The jukebox sat silently in the corner, and a lone booth under soft amber lights bore silent witness to the quiet hours. Behind the counter, Rick, a weathered man whose tired eyes hinted at years of witnessing both hope and hardship, dried a stained glass with a threadbare cloth. His gaze was fixed on a small television above the register where the local news droned on about yet another string of auto thefts in the neighboring district. For Rick, such headlines were a part of the nightly ritual, as common as the desert's whispered secrets. At precisely this moment, seated at the counter with a half-finished cup of black coffee, was none other than Keanu Reeves. Clad in a worn denim jacket and faded jeans that had seen countless miles, Keanu exuded a calm that belied the turbulent events that were about to unfold. His eyes, as deep and thoughtful as ever, betrayed a lifetime of experiences. Each line on his face a story of battles fought, both internal and external. Keanu's eyes briefly flicked to the TV as the anchor's voice warned of more stolen vehicles along the desolate highways. But his expression remained unmoved. Trouble, after all, was a familiar companion. Finishing his coffee, he placed a few bills on the counter, along with a generous tip. Rick nodded in acknowledgement and wished him safe travels. Stepping out into the desert night, Keanu felt the subtle shift in the air. The parking lot, with its faded white lines and the dependable old pickup truck parked beneath a solitary street lamp, now seemed charged with an almost electric tension. The gentle chirping of crickets had given way to an eerie, expectant silence. As he moved toward his truck, something caught his experienced eye. A car parked off to the side, its dark silhouette barely discernible in the dim moonlight. The vehicle wasn't completely abandoned. There was a sense of purpose in its stillness, as if someone were watching from within its shadowed confines. Keanu's steps remained measured and unhurried, yet every fiber of his being was alert to the anomaly. The crunch of gravel under his boots became a steady drumbeat in the quiet night, each step echoing his resolve. As he neared his truck, his hand brushed the worn handle, and a low, firm voice sliced through the darkness. "Step away from the vehicle," the voice commanded. Before Keanu could react, the flashing red and blue lights of a police cruiser erupted onto the scene, casting chaotic hues across the parking lot. Two officers stormed out of the cruiser. The first, a tall and imposing figure with cold, piercing eyes, wore an air of uncompromising authority. His name tag read, Officer Reynolds, a man whose hardened expression and clenched jaw suggested a readiness to use force at a moment's notice. The second, a younger officer with a more uncertain demeanor, hovered at his side. His nervous glance between his partner and Keanu betrayed his inner conflict. His badge identified him as Officer Carter. Keanu's calm voice cut through the tension. "This is my truck. I have my registration and ID inside. Let's not escalate this unnecessarily." But Officer Reynolds was not there to negotiate. With an air of aggressive certainty, he barked, "Get down! Hands behind your head now." His hand hovered near his sidearm as he advanced, every movement radiating the intent to control rather than to understand. In that charged moment, as the neon lights danced on the cracked asphalt and the desert wind whispered secrets of long-forgotten duels, Keanu stood resolute. His hands remained visible and open, his stance non-threatening yet undeniably strong. The younger officer, Officer Carter, shifted uneasily, his eyes betraying a silent plea for a peaceful resolution. But Reynolds' voice brooked no argument. You either comply or face the consequences, Reynolds growled. Keanu's calm response resonated through the still night. I'm not your enemy. I just want to clear up any misunderstanding. His words carried the weight of someone who had faced far worse than unjust orders. For a brief, heart-stopping moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. The desert, the diner, and even the flickering neon sign appeared as silent witnesses to a clash between raw authority and unyielding truth. As tensions escalated, the unmistakable scent of fear and defiance mingled in the warm night air. Without warning, a flash of movement shattered the tenuous balance. Officer Reynolds, misinterpreting Keanu's calm defiance as a threat, lunged forward. His baton swung through the air with the intent to subdue, but Keanu's reflexes, honed over a lifetime of challenges, were lightning fast. With a fluid motion that defied the chaos of the moment, Keanu's hand intercepted Reynolds' baton. In a display of precise, almost poetic counteraction, he twisted the officer's wrist, rendering the baton useless as it clattered to the asphalt. Reynolds' face contorted with surprise and a fleeting trace of pain. The younger officer, Carter, hesitated, his hand trembling near his holster as he watched the unfolding events with wide, uncertain eyes. "Step back!" Reynolds snarled, his authoritative tone now tinged with shock. Keanu's voice remained as steady as a metronome in a storm. "I'm not here to fight, but I will defend myself if you push me further." His words were both a plea and a warning, a call for reason amid the chaos. Yet the night was far from over. As if triggered by the sudden defiance, more police cruisers screeched onto the scene, their sirens wailing like distant wolves. The once solitary parking lot transformed into a stage of clashing forces, red and blue lights casting a surreal glow, voices raised in commands, and the palpable energy of imminent conflict hanging heavy in the air. Among the sudden influx of officers was Captain Lawson, a seasoned man whose reputation for fairness was as solid as the desert rock. His presence cut through the disarray like a beacon of authority. "Officers, stand down," Captain Lawson commanded, his voice calm but imbued with undeniable authority. "We need to de-escalate the situation immediately." In the ensuing moments, as the new arrivals methodically secured the area and began taking control, it became clear that something was terribly amiss. Captain Lawson's sharp eyes took in every detail: the discarded baton, the fallen taser, the dented truck, and, most importantly, the tension that rippled through both his officers and the lone figure standing calmly in the center of it all, Keanu Reeves. "Officer Reynolds, Officer Carter, explain yourselves," Captain Lawson said, his tone leaving little room for argument. But Reynolds' face, now flushed with anger and humiliation, offered little clarity. The younger Carter, still shaking and visibly conflicted, mumbled incoherently about receiving orders, his voice betraying the inner turmoil of a man caught in a web of duty and doubt. Keanu's eyes met Captain Lawson's in a silent exchange, a recognition of shared understanding and the burdens of responsibility. "I have my documents right here," Keanu stated evenly, reaching into his jacket pocket to reveal his identification. "There's no reason for this to go further." But the murky currents of corruption ran deep that night. As Captain Lawson began to piece together the narrative, murmurs of a larger conspiracy began to surface among the gathered officers. Whispers of misreported vehicle thefts and unexplained orders hinted at a rot that had seeped into the very fabric of the precinct. Some among the police force were not enforcing the law. They were bending it to suit their own hidden agendas. Officer Carter, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and regret, finally managed to speak. "Captain, I wasn't sure what to do. I only followed orders. I didn't want anyone to get hurt." His words trailed off, overwhelmed by the weight of his own conscience. Captain Lawson's eyes hardened as he surveyed the scene. "It appears we have a situation that goes beyond a simple misunderstanding," he said. "We'll need to investigate this further. Until then, everyone remain on standby." His tone left no room for negotiation, yet it carried a promise of uncovering the truth. For Keanu Reeves, the confrontation had transcended a mere altercation. It was now a stand against an injustice that threatened to engulf an entire community. As the flashing lights of the arriving cruisers bathed the parking lot in surreal hues, Keanu's mind raced with thoughts of a system corrupted from within. He recalled his own journey, a life filled with trials and moments where doing the right thing meant standing alone against impossible odds. In the quiet that followed the chaotic standoff, the desert night slowly reclaimed its silence. The sound of sirens faded into the distance as officers began to file away, documenting evidence and piecing together the events that had unfolded. Amid the controlled frenzy, Captain Lawson and Officer Carter lingered, their expressions a mixture of remorse, determination, and the heavy realization that their world was not as black and white as it once seemed. Keanu, meanwhile, stepped away from the central chaos, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the whirlwind of events. He approached his pickup truck, a trusted companion that had carried him through many journeys, and leaned against its weathered frame, reflecting on the evening's ordeal. The truth, he knew, was seldom clear-cut. Yet standing there under the vast, starry sky, he felt an inner strength rekindling. This was a moment that demanded not just action, but introspection, a call to all who had ever felt powerless in the face of corruption and injustice. The incident that night wasn't just about a wrongful confrontation in a deserted parking lot. It was a microcosm of a larger struggle. It was about the courage to stand up when the system fails, the resilience to trust in one's own integrity, and the belief that even in the darkest of nights, a single spark of truth can light the way forward. As the night's events slowly dissolved into memory, a quiet understanding settled over those who had witnessed the confrontation. Keanu Reeves, an icon of stoic resilience, had once again shown that true strength lies not in aggression, but in measured defiance against injustice. His actions were a reminder that every individual has the power to stand against wrongdoing, even when the odds seem insurmountable. For the citizens watching tonight, from the heartlands of America to every corner of the globe, this story is more than just a tale of one man versus corrupt authority. It's a testament to the enduring values of truth, honor, and the courage to question systems that have long been taken for granted. It asks us all, what would you do when faced with a choice between blind obedience and moral conviction? And so, as you reflect on the events of this unforgettable night, let the message resonate within you. Justice is not handed down by those in power. It is earned by those who dare to stand for what is right. When the system falters, it is up to each one of us to be the spark that ignites change. If this story moved you and reminded you that even in the darkest times, there is a light of truth, take a moment to reflect on the power of standing up for what is right. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Where are you watching us from tonight? And if you believe in the strength of one person to make a difference, like, share, and subscribe to Timeless Stories. Let's spread a message of hope and inspire one another to be the change we wish to see. Remember, every act of kindness, every moment of courage, and every decision to stand for justice contributes to a better tomorrow. Thank you for being a part of our community, and keep the spirit of truth burning bright. Stay tuned for more timeless tales that remind us that every story holds a lesson, and every lesson lights the path to a better future.